I honestly can't think of many game franchises out there that has divided both gamers and critics alike so furiously than the Sonic series. Many fans of the series attest that Sonic Generations was a great game, while some critics call it lackluster. Some fans of the series say that Sonic CD wasn't a strong title, as many critics, including myself, have given it very high praise. Sonic Unleashed released a lackluster reviews and poor reception by gamers, yet some attest that it was still an interesting title. Ay, my fucking head. Now, like I've said before, I'm not a huge fan of the Sonic series per se, but I do enjoy some of the games here and there. And in this video, I'll be taking a look at one of the more enjoyed, yet departed titles in the series with Sonic Adventure. Something tells me I'll need an aspirin before all this is over, but it's too late to turn back now, so let's take a look. This game was initially released in 1998 for the Sega Dreamcast, and while the system itself wasn't too successful in the long run, this was in fact its best-selling title. As a matter of fact, this title was so popular that it has been re-released several times. Once for the Xbox Live Arcade and PSN, once on the PC, and once on the version I'll be taking a look at in this video, Sonic Adventure DX for the GameCube. This game begins with Sonic encountering a monstrosity, simply named Chaos, in his current residence of Station Square. Upon defeating this monster, Sonic discovers that not only is this creature both fueled and strengthened by the Chaos Emeralds, but is also under the control of none other than Dr. Robotnik himself. Upon discovering this shocking development, Sonic and Tails set off to find the remainder of the Chaos Emeralds before Robotnik does, in hopes of stopping his dastardly plan. But as you play through this storyline, you will unlock the ability to play through the game as some of the other characters. All of these characters' storylines overarch each other, and each playthrough allows for a different experience, as the characters all have different abilities. Let's start with Knuckles. As a member of the Echidna tribe, it is Knuckles' duty to guard the Master Emerald from any harm. However, Robotnik's creation Chaos manages to shatter the emerald and scatter the remains across the land. So it's up to Knuckles to find these shards and restore the Master Emerald. As for Tails, there's nothing too special about his storyline, as he pretty much just follows Sonic step for step for most of the campaign. But of course, there's also Sonic's not love interest, Amy Rose. Amy's storyline has her caring for a baby bird and helping it find its parents. Admittedly, there is a bit more to the storyline than that, but I get accused of spoiling too much of the plot in video games as it is. This leaves two more characters. There's a robot named E102 Gamma, whose story I will leave shrouded as to avoid spoilers, and then there's the final character, Big the Cat, who... actually, I don't give a fuck. Long story short, he's looking for his Froggy. Moving on. The gameplay in this title varies depending on which character you're using, but there is one aspect that remains the same regardless. I am speaking of the adventure fields. In this game, rather than getting whisked away to another level after completing a stage, you get to explore through 4 main areas in order to reach your destination. Now, these areas aren't too large, and honestly there isn't that much exploration to be done. But if you can't manage to find your way, not to worry, as you can pull up a map of the current area, conveniently hidden in the pause menu, or you can get hints on where to go next outside of the Station Square train station. Now for the second half of the gameplay, the action stages. If you've played any Sonic game, you probably know how these stages work. Go from point A to point B and collect as many rings as you can on the way. But of course, these stages vary depending on which character you are currently using. Sonic and Tails stages function like, well, a normal Sonic or Tails stage. They attempt to race each other to the end while flying, running extremely fast, and taking out enemies on the way. Knuckles stages are a bit different. He can't run very fast, however he does have the ability to glide, climb walls, and burrow to find the shards he needs to rebuild the Master Emerald. Amy's stages involve her walking around and beating enemies to death with her hammer, and Big's involve walking slow as hell and fishing. Yep. After you complete everyone's storyline, there is a secret story to be unlocked involving Sonic, which properly concludes the game. Including this storyline, you're probably looking at somewhere around 7 to 8 hours to fully beat this game. Now for the reviewing. Let's start off in a different direction than usual by talking about the soundtrack first. It's phenomenal. Seriously, the soundtrack in this game, regardless of which track is playing, is always extremely appropriate and inexplicably just puts me in a good mood. Moving on to the graphics, I can't really say I have any problems. There really is nothing spectacular about the way this game looks, but considering this is a GameCube port of a Dreamcast title, it could have been way worse. Not to mention, this was the first 3D incarnation of the Sonic series, and for what it's worth, they did a pretty good job with what they had. Now let's move on to the gameplay. The segments where the gameplay shines the most are undoubtedly the action stages. With some exceptions aside, for the most part, these stages are fast-paced, well-designed, and all-around fun to play. What's even better is that as you play through the same stages as different characters, you will discover new areas and new ways to play. The adventure fields, however, I could really do without. I can admire that the developers were trying for a different direction in the series, but I really see this as an if it ain't broke, don't fix it scenario. Allow me to elaborate. When it comes down to it, there really isn't that much to explore, and this really just unnecessarily extends the game time. Call me old-fashioned, but I prefer the Sonic games that are just action stage to action stage without too much in between. One last thing to note before my conclusion is the voice acting. The voice acting in this game ranges from adequate to painful. If you want, you can skip the cutscenes, or of course just turn down the volume. But I gotta say, Tails' voice in this game makes me grateful for my mute button. So, in conclusion, what do I think of this game? Well, as I'm sure you can probably tell, I'm not a huge fan. There are some aspects of this game I really enjoyed, but as a whole I think the game just could have been better. But just because I didn't like this game, that doesn't necessarily make it bad. In fact, if you're a fan of the Sonic series, haven't played this game, and aren't bothered by the same aspects I am, I could really see you getting a good amount of enjoyment out of this title. So if you're interested, you can pick up this title for GameCube for dirt cheap, or you can pick up the original on the Xbox Live Arcade or the PSN. So, until next time, this is E-Dog saying, regardless of what I think of this game, at least it's not Sonic the Hedgehog, see you next time.